mantras they just and uh, and then they were left with no king, no qualified king to rule them. So then they went to Lord Brahma, they went to Lord, I think they went to Lord Vishnu also, I don't remember correctly now. And then they were given the solution that, okay, you churn the body of Vena, and then from that body, you will get the next king. So the first person who came out from that body, does anyone know who was the first person who came from that body? From by the churning of King Vena's thighs.
I think Prabhuji was Nabhaga, I guess.
Yes, Nabhag. His name was Nabhag. He now also known as Nishad. He's the originator of the Nishad community. So a dark skinned and person. And yeah, so it is said that he took away all the sins of Vena. So when Nishad was born, when Nabhaga was born, he took away all the sins of Vena, and then what was left of Vena's body was nothing but pure substance. And then they churned the arms of Vena, and from the arms of Vena, not only Prithu came out. Who else came out from the arms of Vena? Does anyone know?
Archie.
Archie, yes, his consort came out from the arms of Vena, and as soon as and as he's Prithu, the next person, the great king who comes out from Vena's arms is Prithu Maharaj. So Prithu Maharaj happens to be the Shaktiavesh avatar. So the Lord had invested his potency of ruling over the world in Prithu Maharaj, and so he's the incarnation of the ruling potency of the Lord. Just like Prabhupada gives that example in one of the purports. Whatever qualities, like the Lord can invest certain qualities in certain jivas, and they can do great things in that particular aspect. So because they have been invested with the Lord's potency. So similarly, like uh, Parshuram is also known as a Shakti Avesh avatar. So he is like the incarnation of the strength or the power, I believe, of the Lord. Then there is, it is said that Indra is the incarnation of, in Indra, the Lord has invested his lust in Indra, it is said in one of the purports. Then it is also said that Prabhupada was a Shakti Avesh avatar. The Lord invested the power of preaching in Prabhupada. That is why we see, because, and then it's very, what these Shaktiavesh avatars do, it's very, very extraordinary. It is just, I mean, they stand out of the crowd. They literally stand out of the crowd. Nobody is even goes even close to what they did. That is the kind of achievement they have. So that is why they are Shakti Avesh avatars. And then similarly, Prithu is the incarnation of the ruling potency of Lord Vishnu. And that is how Prithu Maharaj appears. And then there are various pastimes that happen. Like one of the things that Prithu Maharaj um, exhibits as a very prominent quality in himself is the quality of humility. As soon as Prithu Maharaj appears, seeing him, all the professional reciters, the Brahmanas, they start praising him. They start praising him and with various qualities, mentioning various of his qualities. But then he says, look, dear professional reciters, your words are very kind, but let me at least exhibit certain things. Let me at least do something, do something for the welfare of the kingdom, and then you can glorify me. Why are you glorifying me before I am doing any activity? Right. So he says that he expresses his humility. Then we have the pastime where Prithu Maharaj becomes angry at Mother Earth, right? Because Mother Earth, because of being ruled over by, or rather because of being stomped over by all these unruly kings under Vena and the unruly kings under him, she is very much aggrieved. So she has, because of the misuse that was happening of her grains and of whatever resources she would provide, she has actually withheld all those things. And then when Prithu Maharaj appears, he has started to transform the kingdom. And then the virtue is again on the rise. So, but then there is no vegetation. There are no resources for people to survive on. So then Prithu Maharaj becomes angry at Mother Earth because she is withholding all this. And then we know how he chases her, and then finally Mother Earth agrees, and she gives out all the vegetation, and that way the kingdom becomes prosperous again. And then in the next pastime we saw, oh yeah, of course, Prithu Maharaj milks planet Earth, and that milking is symbolic of him taking all the resources and providing it to his citizens. So then we see, 100 horse sacrifices. We did a drama also on this in New Vrindavan. So he initiates this 100 horse Ashwamedha Yagyas for the welfare of the citizens and for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. But then he completes 99 yagyas, but then at the 100th yagya, Indra becomes insecure. So because when if Prithu was successful in doing the 100 Ashwamedha yagyas, then he is actually qualified to become Indra, to take the place of Indra. So Indra becomes very insecure because he doesn't want to lose his post. Kursi nahi chodni hai usko. So he becomes insecure and he tries various ways and means to steal the sacrificial horse. And he comes and takes it, but then Prithu Maharaj's son, he defeats him and brings the horse back. And then later he takes the form of various fake gurus or fake sannyasis, fake mendicants, munis and all that, and tries to take the horse away. But then Atri Muni tells Prithu Maharaj's son that this is actually Indra coming in the garb of a mendicant. So don't spare him. So then that time there is a battle, and then Prithu Maharaj is about to kill Indra when Brahma comes and stops everything. Brahma says, "Look, you've done what you have to do. You have pleased everybody, and you're already ruling nicely. But then if you continue to do this 100th yagya, you're actually just bringing out the bad in Indra. Already he has started this sampradaya of fake gurus, hodgepodge gurus. Already he has done that kind of damage, due to which all the people for time to come will be misled by these fake gurus. Now, if you still continue to do this, his insecurity will rise even more, and he'll do even more nonsense. And God knows what he'll do. So then he says, "Stop now. And 99 is good." And we saw how Nupur nicely covered how 99 is greater than 100, right? So she had various points that she covered during her class and about that chapter. So yeah, that was, and then which Lord Vishnu gets pleased by Prithu Maharaj's humility, by Prithu Maharaj's submissiveness to a spiritual superior, right? When so Lord Brahma is a spiritual superior. He's actually even our spiritual superior. He's our Sampradaya Acharya. He's the, because when you see the Guru Parampara in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada lists out, there is Krishna, and then the next person who received the knowledge from Krishna is Brahma. Tene Brahma Rudaya Adi Kavaye. Right? So Lord Brahma, and then Brahma passes it to Narad Muni, Narad Muni to Vyasadeva, and things like that. So he's also our Sampradaya Acharya. So that way Prithu Maharaj exhibited that humility and submissiveness towards a spiritual superior, and he stops the yagya. And seeing this, Lord Vishnu becomes pleased. So the whole aim of whatever we do, like the entire aim of, Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu covered in the last class, that amazing purport, verse 33 of chapter 21. Verse 23 of chapter 31, where of chapter 21, where that the Varnashrama system is being discussed by Prabhupada. How Prabhupada in very much detail does that and discusses the Varnashrama, Guna Karma Vibhagasha, right? So he does that, and then all this is why is this all meant? What is this all meant for? The Varnashrama system. Atha Pumbir Dvijashreshta Varnashrama Vibhagasha Swanushritasya Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshanam, for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. That is the sole purpose of the Varnashram Dharma. Varnashram Dharma is not meant for any other reason other than that. And it is Maya Srishtam, Krishna says. It is my creation, these four Varnas and four ashramas. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Chatur Varnam Maya Srishtam. So, in this way, Prithu Maharaj is instructing the citizens, and till now he is kind of in an instructive mood. And the reason I broke it down at verse 23 is from verse 24 onwards, he wait, did we go till 33? No. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu, 33.
33, yeah, sorry, 33 is the verse. But yeah, the point remains that Pṛthu Maharaj is in an instructing mode till now, and now Pṛthu Maharaj is switching gears for a bit, and then he's explaining the nature of the Supreme Lord. So here he starts. The Supreme Lord is, something like that, is all pervading, and blah blah blah. So like that. So yeah, that is where we are. So now we'll start with the reading, and actually let's just do quick prayers maybe. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघायते गिरिं यत्कृपादमहं वन्दे श्री गुरुं दीनतारणं. So let us all pray to the Supreme Lord, to our gurus, to Srila Prabhupada, that we can discuss something and together go closer to Krishna. So as always, let's raise hands. So there are how many? 52 verses in this section. Not many verses, but I think the purports were very big. So that is why that's how I did the breakup. But anyway, so yeah, so we have 35 to 52. So that is 52, 42, 35, 17 plus 1, 18. So 18 verses. So maybe we can have two devotees read 10 and 8 verses respectively. So yeah, anyone? Yes, Nupur, go ahead, ma.
Hare Krishna.
It's from 34 verse, Prabhu.
Sorry, 34, sorry.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental and not contaminated by this material world. But although he is concentrated spirit soul without material variety for the benefit of the conditioned soul, he nevertheless accepts different types of sacrifice performed with various material elements, rituals, and mantras, and offered to the demigods under different names according to the interest and purposes of the performers. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is all pervading, but He is also manifested in different types of bodies which arise from a combination of material nature, time, desires, and occupational duties. Thus, different types of consciousness develop, just as fire, which is always basically the same, blazes in different ways according to the shape and dimension of firewood. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the master and enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices, and He is the Supreme Spiritual Master as well. All of you citizens on the surface of the globe who have a relationship with me and are worshipping Him by dint of your occupational duties are bestowing your mercy upon me. Therefore, O my citizens, I thank you. The Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are personally glorified by their characteristic powers of tolerance, penance, knowledge, and education. By dint of all these spiritual assets, Vaishnavas are more powerful than royalty. It is therefore advised that the princely order not exhibit its material prowess before these two communities and should avoid offending them. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ancient eternal Godhead, who is foremost amongst all great personalities, obtained the opulence of his staunch reputation, which purifies the entire universe by worshipping the lotus feet of those Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is everlastingly independent and who exists in everyone's heart, is very pleased with those who follow in his footsteps and engage without reservation in the service of descendants of the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, for he is always dear to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas and they are always dear to him. By regular service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, one can clear the dirt from his heart and thus enjoy supreme peace and liberation from material attachment and be satisfied. In this world, there is no fruitive activity superior to serving the Brahmana class, for this can bring pleasure to the demigods, for whom the many sacrifices are recommended. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ananta, eats through the fire sacrifices offered in the names of the different demigods, he does not take as much pleasure in eating through fire as he does in accepting offerings through the mouths of learned sages and devotees, for then he does not leave the association of devotees. In Brahmanical culture, a Brahmana's transcendental position is eternally maintained because of the injunctions of the Vedas are accepted with faith, austerity, spiritual conclusions, full sense and mind control, and meditation. In this way, the real goal of life is illuminated, just as one's face is fully reflected in a clear mirror.
Oh, sorry.
Can you scroll up, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Clear mirror, yeah. 43.
O respectable personalities present here, I beg the blessings of all of you that I may perpetually carry on my crown, the dust of the lotus feet of such Brahmanas and Vaishnavas until the end of my life. He who can carry such dust on his head is very soon relieved of all the reactions which arise from sinful life, and eventually he develops all good and desirable qualities. Whoever acquires the Brahmanical qualifications, whose only wealth is good behavior, who is grateful, and who takes shelter of experienced persons, gets all the opulence of the world. I therefore wish that the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his associates be pleased with the Brahmana class, with the cows, and with me.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, Vishal Prabhu, you can go ahead. 45 2. You can end it.
The great sage Maitreya said, after hearing King Pṛthu speak so nicely, all the demigods, the denizens of Pitraloka, the Brahmanas, and the saintly persons present at the meeting congratulated him by expressing their goodwill. They all declared that the Vedic conclusion that one can conquer the heavenly planets by the action of a putra or son was fulfilled for the most sinful Vena, who had been killed by the curse of the Brahmanas, was now delivered from the darkest region of hellish life by his son, Mahārāja Pṛthu. Similarly, Hiranyakashipu, who by dint of his sinful activities always defied the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, entered into the darkest region of hellish life. But by the grace of his great son, Prahlad Maharaj, he also was delivered and went back home, back to Godhead. All the saintly Brahmanas thus addressed Pṛthu Maharaj. O best of the warriors, O father of this globe, may you be blessed with a long life, for you have great devotion to the infallible Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of all the universe. The audience continued, Dear King Pṛthu, your reputation is the purest of all. For you are preaching the glories of the most glorified of all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the Brahmanas. Since, due to our great fortune, we have you as our master, we think that we are living directly under the agency of the Lord. Our dear Lord, it is your occupational duty to rule over your citizens. This is not a very wonderful task for a personality like you, who are so affectionate in seeing to the interests of the citizens, because you are full of mercy. That is the greatness of your character. The citizens continued, Today you have opened our eyes and revealed how to cross to the other side of the ocean of darkness. By our past deeds and by the arrangement of superior authority, we are entangled in a network of fruitive activities and have lost sight of the destination of life. Thus, we have been wandering within the universe. Dear Lord, you are situated in your pure existential position of goodness. Therefore, you are the perfect representative of the Supreme Lord. You are glorified by your own prowess, and thus you are maintaining the entire world by introducing Brahmanical culture and protecting everyone in your line of duty as a Kshatriya. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So yeah, very nice section. Starts with Prithu Maharaj glorifying the Supreme Lord, and then the citizens glorify him, and then finally it ends with them saying that you have opened our eyes and revealed how to cross to the other side of the ocean of darkness. Yes, Megha Mataji, you have any question, comment? I think you're muted, Mataji.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know I was muted, Prabhu. Sorry
Oh,
about that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Yes.
Oh, so I thought like I raised hand for the next reading
Reading, okay.
opportunity. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, the chapter ends here, but yeah, we'll discuss. Let's see where we get. So yeah, the verse 34. So this is where Prithu Maharaj has started glorifying the Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental and not contaminated by this material world. But although he is concentrated spirit soul without material activity for the benefit of the conditioned soul, he nevertheless accepts different type of sacrifices performed with various material elements, rituals and mantras and offered to the demigods under different names according to the interests and purposes of the performers. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that sataya shraddhaya yuktas tasya radhanam ihate tasya tasya chalam shraddham tam eva vidadhamyaham. So actually, whatever sacrifices humans perform to the demigods, Krishna says that actually they are doing it to me only, but they are doing it indirectly. So yeah, here also it says that based on whatever desires, various desires that living entities have, they worship the particular demigods. But actually, the power or power that the demigods have to offer those results is actually being bestowed upon them by Krishna only, by the Vishnu only, and then they are his representatives, being being his representative and offering all those benedictions to humanity. So Krishna is making that facility for us. So he is like yes, you have desires, fine, act it out, and then you will realize at one point that that is not the be all and end all. There is something beyond getting these desires fulfilled. So when do material desires get fulfilled? Anyone?
When we let go of the desire,
Yeah. So Maharaj, Radhanath Maharaj says in a lecture that material desire can never be fulfilled. It's like, yeah, the more you fulfill it, the more you'd want to fulfill it. But then at the same time, we have to have a balance in the sense that we should not become too agitated as well. So both those factors are there. But the general principle is that yes, we have to kind of let go of certain things. But then that letting go is not that easy. If we let go for the purpose of letting go, then that is a very difficult thing to do, because that is not the nature of the soul. The nature of the soul is to be always be attached to something. That's the nature of the soul. Now, the nature of the soul is to be always active. Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, there can't be even a single moment when the soul can be inactive in the true sense of the word. It can't happen. So the only way then is to be remain active, but remain active for the right thing. So that is where we dovetail our activity towards the Lord, and that is where and that becomes, with that higher taste, param drishtva nivartate, then giving up the lower tendencies becomes easier. So again, this is theory for me also, but experienced that to some extent for sure. And yeah, Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu, you have something to say?
Just a doubt, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
So material desires can be fulfilled, right? For example, Hiranyakashipu did, Ravana did, and even we can also do by like worshipping demigods and doing some like karma kind activities, or doing going off with astrology, or a lot of things.
Yeah,
And we can actually fulfill the material desires, but we won't be satisfied. The
correct,
desires can be fulfilled, but we won't be satisfied, right?
correct. Yeah. So yeah, the specific manifestations of that base desire that the soul has, like that can manifest as, okay, I want a promotion. That can manifest as, I want a car, I want something. Those can be fulfilled for sure. But as you mentioned, that you know, the basic need for happiness, the basic need for satisfaction never gets fulfilled with material things. Yeah, that's true. We do get fulfillment from things, but that and then if we observe, if we uh like those who, let's say, are not on a spiritual path, don't have a spiritual edge to life, they might have a desire, like they might have a very lofty desire that they want to become something, they want to attain a certain position. But then even after attaining that position, they are not happy, as you rightly mentioned, Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu. Then they keep endeavoring for something else. Then they might achieve that through good karma. But then again, that doesn't completely satisfy. Then they again hop on to something. And what is the result of all this? Brahmanda Brahmite. Brahmanda Brahmite. Sometimes, the soul is going to the higher planetary systems, exercising their, good karma, enjoying. Sometimes they are coming down, and yeah, it just goes on. Brahmanda Brahmite. And then, that intervention is needed. Guru Krishna Prasade. So, yeah, very true. Very, very pertinent point. Anyone has any reflections on that? Okay, let's move on. So here it says Supreme Personality of Godhead is all pervading, but he is also manifested in different types of bodies. Yes, Krishnan Prabhu, you have something to say.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think this was the wisdom of the sages or somewhere,
Hmm.
where I heard that desire is like an itch, and it cannot, it can, it may satisfy temporarily, but the root cause will still be there.
Correct.
That's all I just wanted to share that, Prabhu.
That is true.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so there is this, there is that verse, I forget. Kutam Bijam Falonmukham. Yeah. So there are four things in a chain actually. So the last, like the last thing in the chain is the reaction for our sin, right? Reaction for our activity. It is spoken in terms of sin, but then yeah, there is the reaction to the sin. But why does the reaction to the sin occur? Because of the sinful activity, right? Why does the sinful activity occur? Because of certain samskaras, right? Kutam, like we have certain samskaras, certain vasanas that we have acquired. Due to that, we commit activity, and due to committing that activity, we get sinful reactions, right? So there are these three things. Now, even more basic than these three things is called bijam. Bijam is that very seed of material desire. That it's very, very basic and very, very subtle. From that seed of material desire, we acquire certain vasanas, and through those vasanas, because of those vasanas, we act in a certain way, and because of those actions in a certain way, we get the reaction of that activity. Now, many spiritual paths may try to minimize the reaction, or they might even go up to the point of minimizing activity itself, due to which you won't get any reaction. Or they might even to some extent modify vasanas, reorient vasanas. But then bhakti is the only process due to which even the bija, the seed material desire, actually is taken away. And that's what Parikshit Maharaj also says in the Bhagavatam, right? He expresses to Shukadev Goswami that, this doesn't make sense to me. These people, they go to the Ganges, they go to the Ganga, they bathe in Mother Ganga, and then they come back and do sinful reactions. They bathe in Mother Ganga for the hope of getting rid of their sinful reactions, and then they come out, and then continue performing their sinful reaction. So he compares that to an elephant, that the elephant the bathes in the river and then comes back and again rolls in the dust, in the dirt. So what is the use of that? And that's where Shukdev Goswami says that yes, you're right, and then bhakti is the only way. Hearing bhakti, which begins by hearing Shranamatam Swakatha Krishna, that is the only way by which we can destroy even the bija, the seed, basic seed of material desire. And that is when the true nature of the soul starts blossoming. Yeah. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful explanation, Prabhu. I thank you so much. That made it very, very clear. And then so if you keep extrapolating from there, the ultimate root cause is our envy, and that's the reason why we got separated from God. Is that?
Yeah. You could say that. I mean, there are again different.
Or we forgot our constitutional position as being servants of God, and we decided to be independent.
Yes, that's a better way to put it, because yeah, there is this whole thought process that if we were with Krishna, then how did we get envious in the association of Krishna? So of course there are many explanations given, but then there are counter explanations to that. But then yes, Ichha Dvesha Samutena Dvandva Mohena Bharata. Because of Ichha and Dvesha, the soul goes into Dvandva and Moha. Ichha is desire and Dvesha is hatred. Ichha Dvesha Samuthena, all living entities are born in, Ichha and Dvesha. Krishna says in the Gita, Dvandva, duality, and Moha, illusion. So because of hatred and desire, these two things happen. Dvandva Mohena Bharata. Sarva Bhutani Sammoham. Sarge Yanti Parantapa. So yeah, that tendency is there. That little free will that the living entity has, he misuses it and then gets into trouble. Yeah.
Actually, the explanation that you gave just now is so apt, even for the standard question that get asked all the time is why doesn't ISKCON build hospitals or something like that?
Yeah.
And so this explanation that you gave today is applicable for that too.
Yeah. It's like you could do those things, but then that is in many ways touching the surface. Not that that's not important, but we have to target the root cause, and that's what Prabhupada did. Prabhupada did emphasize on prasadam distribution and charity like that, but at the same time he said spiritualize it. That way the seed ignorance is taken out. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, so next, so here it says, the Sunyu is all pervading, but he is also manifested in different types of bodies. Okay, this looks like philosophical, which arise from a combination of material nature, time, desires, and occupational duties. Thus, different types of consciousness develop, just as fire, which is always basically the same, blazes in different ways according to the shape and dimension of firewood. Yeah, nice analogy here. And then the next one, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the master and the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. And he's the supreme spiritual master as well. All of you citizens on the surface of the globe who have a relationship with me are worshipping him by dint of your occupational duties, are bestowing your mercy upon me. Therefore, my citizens, I thank you. Yeah, this is very, very interesting, because, Pṛthu Maharaj is speaking this, and you take Pṛthu Maharaj's father, King Vena, he also says something similar, but the motivation of that is very, very different, exactly opposite actually. Because Vena is also, he says in one of the verses in the previous chapters that, I am the representative of God, or rather he doesn't even say representative, The king is like the supreme personality of Godhead. The king is like the supreme lord for the citizens. So you should worship me. That is why I am worthy of your worship. I am worthy of all the benefits. I am the beneficiary of whatever you do. But even Pṛthu Maharaj is saying something similar here, but then he is totally flipping it. and he's giving the credit to the Supreme Lord. So he's saying, you all citizens have a relationship with me, and you are worshipping me, but you're actually worshipping him by the dint of your occupational duties. And by doing so, you are actually bestowing your mercy upon me. So this is again very interesting, how one same spiritual concept can be taken and flipped in any way you want, right? Uh, in even in Krishna Lila, we see this, that these demons like Jarasandha and everything, even for that matter, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha. When Hiranyaksha died, when Varahadev killed Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu is seen consoling his family. So he's like, and he's speaking very high philosophy. Like if we take those words in isolation, the last pastime we covered it was of Narsimhadev, and I remember like there were some verses which were spoken actually by Hiranyakashipu. If we take those in isolation, those were actually very philosophically sound verses, like talking about the spirit soul, temporariness of material pleasure, and this and that. But then, yeah, Krishna also talks about those things in the Bhagavad Gita also. But then the motivations are totally different. The conclusion that Hiranyakashipu reached is, Vishnu is my mortal enemy, my arch nemesis, and I have to avenge my brother's death by killing Vishnu. But if when devotees take those same philosophical points, they arrive at devotion. They arrive at devotional service and devotional surrender to the Supreme Lord. So yeah, that is one thing. And then the next one, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are personally glorified by their characteristic powers of tolerance, penance, knowledge, and education. By dint of all these spiritual assets, Vaishnavas are more powerful than royalty. It is therefore advised that the princely order not exhibit its material prowess before these two communities and should avoid offending them. So yeah, again, this is the like a hierarchy is being given here. Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu very nicely covered that Brahmanas are people with ideas. They are very soundly situated in the Shastra. At least they're supposed to be, and then they guide the society. They are like the head of the Supreme Lord, the head of the body of the Supreme Lord. So they guide the society. So yeah, that is, and here the characteristics of the Brahmanas are being discussed. Tolerance, penance, shamodamastapa shaucham, kshantir arjavam evacha, jnanam vijnanam astikyam, brahma karma svabhavajam, Krishna says in the Gita. So yeah, yes, Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu, please.
I just saw the purport of this verse. If we see the second paragraph, it is very nice, like very simple definition of the simple definition of Vaishnava and how a Vaishnava is above a Brahmana. So it's very nicely described by Prabhupada there. Just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Prabhu. I'll read part of it actually. The simple definition of a Vaishnava is given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is a person who immediately reminds one of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is a Vaishnava. In this verse, both Vaishnavas and Brahmanas are mentioned. A Vaishnava is a learned Brahmana and therefore designated as a Brahmana Vaishnava, Brahmana Pandita, or a Vaishnava and a Brahman. In other words, a Vaishnava is supposed to be a Brahmana already, but a Brahmana may not be a pure Vaishnava. When a person understands his pure identity, Brahma Janati, he immediately becomes a Brahmana. In the Brahmana stage, one's understanding of the absolute truth is mainly based on the impersonal view. When a Brahmana, however, rises to the platform of personal understanding of the Supreme Godhead, he becomes a Vaishnava. Vaishnava is transcendental even to a Brahmana. In the material conception, the position of a Brahmana is the highest in human society. But a Vaishnava is transcendental even to a Brahmana. Both the Brahmana and Vaishnava are spiritually advanced. And then, yeah, this is Brahmana's qualifications are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita as truthfulness, mental equanimity, control of the senses, power of tolerance, simplicity, knowledge of the absolute truth, firm faith in the scriptures, practical application of, and the practical application of Brahmanical qualities in life. In addition to all these qualifications, when one fully engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he becomes a Vaishnava. So yes, very beautiful purport, very nicely written by Prabhupada. Yeah, so, and actually this has been a point of contention also. Now, of course, nobody is shastrically that sound even in India to to even bring about this point of contention. But during the time of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, this actually happened, and even there was some resistance even during the time of Lord Chaitanya also, like the caste-based Brahmanas. The caste-based Brahmanas would say that the Brahmanas are higher than Vaishnavas, and then this used to happen a lot during Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time. And then that time Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is said to have engaged in a debate with these Brahmanas, and he soundly defeated them and he so soundly defeated them, and they were so I guess disturbed and so affected by that defeat. They actually plotted to even kill Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That's correct, right? Anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there were attempts on his life, or at least there were plans of attempts on his life, because he did this one thing. So traditionally, the Brahminical community would be engaged in, temple worship and all that. So there is a steady flow of income that comes through those temples. So the Brahmanas are not, at least the Brahma Bandhus or the so-called Brahmins were not ready to give up that position. And yeah, and then actually even in this one of the purports Prabhupada, where he quoted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just now. No, sorry, there's other purport where Prabhupada quoted Krishna, Chaturvarnem Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. The Vibhaga of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra happens on Guna and Karma. So it happens on qualities and activities. It's not based on birth. And that is something that even that is actually one very striking point about Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And within that, it prominently comes out in ISKCON, because Prabhupada literally opened it up. Like, he was the epitome of this principle that your varna doesn't get decided on your birth, because he initiated Westerners into Brahmanas. Westerners are not even considered in the four varnas. Forget about spiritual life, but they are not even considered. But then, yeah, Prabhupada completely destroyed that wrong conception by initiating Westerners into Vaishnavism and transforming their hearts, who ended up transforming so many other hearts. So yeah, very important. And then even this in Kapila Muni, teachings of Lord Kapila to Devahuti, there is this very famous verse actually. Aho bakiyam, Aho batashva pachoto gariyan yad jivhagre vartate namatubhyam. Right. So Aho batashva pacho. Yeah. So this verse, Aho batashva pachoto gariyan yad jivhagre vartate namatubhyam. Tepus tapaste juhu sasnur arya brahmanuchur nama grinanti yete. So I had heard a class by Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj where he nicely breaks up. So what this verse essentially says is, one who recites the holy names on one's tongue is greater than an initiated Brahmana. Although he may be born in a family of dog eaters and therefore by material calculation may be lowest among men, he is still glorious. So this is the wonderful effect of chanting the holy name of the Lord. So yeah, it is therefore concluded that one who chants the holy name of the Lord should be understood to have performed all kinds of austerities, great sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas. He has already taken his bath in all holy places of pilgrimage. He has studied all Vedas, and he is actually an Aryan. So all this tepus, tapas, juhuvuhu, sasnuhu, Arya, Brahma, Anuchu, like that. So everything is kind of contained within the chanting of the holy names. Okay, moving ahead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ancient eternal Godhead, who is foremost amongst all great personalities, obtained the opulence of his staunch reputation, which purifies the entire universe by worshipping the lotus feet of those Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. So yeah, again, the glory of the Lord is magnified when the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas are worshipped. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is everlastingly independent and who exists in everyone's heart, is very pleased with those who follow in his footsteps and engage without reservation in the service of the descendants of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. For he is always dear to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and they are always dear to him. Yes, so Vaishnavas are very dear to the Lord. Brahmanas are very dear to the Lord. We chant that prayer, Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha. So Krishna is Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha. So, that way, Go Brahmana Pratipalak, they say. So, very dear to the Lord, Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas. So, yeah, this is the true Brahmanas being mentioned here, not the birth Brahmanas. So, by regular service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, one can clear the dirt from his heart and thus enjoy supreme peace and liberation from material attachment and be satisfied. In this world, there is no fruitive activity superior to serving the Brahmana class, for this can bring pleasure to the demigods, for whom the many sacrifices are recommended. So, yeah, again, service is seva is what is mentioned here. Mahat sevam dvaram ahur vimuktes tamodvaram yoshitam sangi sangam. So, like the doors to liberation are opened by serving whom? Mahat Sevam. Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahur Vimuktes. The doors to liberation are opened when one serves a great Vaishnava. And on the contrary, Tamodvaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. So, the doors to hell are opened when we associate with Sangi Sangam. This is actually a beautiful verse. What is that? One can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonalists and devotees. Interesting. Whether one wants to merge into the Lord existence or wants to associate with the personality of God, one should render service to the Mahatmas. For those who are not interested in such activities, who associate with people fond of women and sex, the path to hell is wide open. So, yeah, that is Tamodvaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. So, yeah. So not just those who associate with, uh, you know, these ignorant activities, but even associating with those who associate with these things, that is also a problem. So that also creates an impact and starts a downward trajectory. Yeah. Anyway, any reflections so far? I I don't want to be the only one blabbering, but yeah. Yes, Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu.
Yeah, I was just thinking some of the examples uh, where devotees or where, let's say, people have served the Vaishnavas. For example, Shabri did service to her guru and so Lord Ram, and there was this Dukhi in Chaitanya Leela who went up to become Sukhi,
Yes.
and Kuresh was there who served Ramanujacharya.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm just trying to think the examples of those who served the Vaishnavas and attained Lord's feet.
Yeah. Yeah, very nice. Yeah. So many examples. Yeah, let's churn examples, dear devotees. That's a nice thing to do. Examples where somebody served a Vaishnava and they became really happy and elevated spiritually.
Like so many Prabhupada's disciples just in contemporary context.
Yeah. Narad Muni served. Yes, Narad Muni before he became Narada. Yes. Narada boy. He served those Mahabhagavats and he became a great soul later. Yeah. Very interesting story. He mentions that story to Vyasadeva in the initial parts of Bhagavatam. Yeah. Yeah. Any other examples of?
Of course, the Ramayana has quite a few examples
Yeah.
of, Jatayu, like Mataji has written Jatayu,
Yeah.
and all the Vanars, they all served Lord Ram,
Correct.
including Lord Hanuman.
Correct. Yeah.
And you mentioned Nishad today. isn't that Nishad the first place where Lord Ram stops? Wasn't he a Nishad Raja?
I don't know, Prabhu. I don't remember that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look it up too.
Yeah, Kubja, garland maker, Sudhama. Yeah, yeah. Yes, so yes, service to great souls is very powerful.
Whom did Kupcha serve?
Kubja didn't serve Vaishnava, she served the Lord directly, right?
Oh, directly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that she was a hunch, na? She was a hunchback, and Krishna holds her chin and just pulls her up, and she turns into a beautiful lady. So
Yeah.
that. And even these manjaris are actually they are servants of Radharani. They there is a actually there is a very harmonious hierarchy in the spiritual world. So it's not that everybody is directly serving Krishna. It's not that everybody is directly serving Radharani. So it's a very well managed ecosystem over there of seva, which is all managed by Vrinde Devi and her assistants, where all these manjaris are involved and they serve uh, they serve more senior manjaris who serve more senior gopis who serve the main 8 gopis, and then the main 8 gopis are engaged in serving Srimati Radharani, and all this is happening so that the pastimes of Krishna and Radharani are very exciting for them, very very pleasurable for them. So that is happening there. So yeah. Anyway, moving forward. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead Ananta eats through the fire sacrifices offered in the names of the different demigods, he does not take much pleasure in eating through fire, as he does in accepting offerings through the mouths of learned sages and devotees. For then he does not leave the association of devotees. Yeah, this is also again very interesting that he does not take much pleasure in eating through fire as he does in accepting the offerings through the mouths of learned sages and devotees. So yeah, I mean, wait a minute. I think I'll have to see the purport for this. Naham Tishtami, yeah. I guess yeah, that's what I was thinking. What does it mean when Prabhupada writes offerings through the mouths of learned sages? I think yeah, it means glorifications, the mantras. Yeah. So yeah, Naham Tishtami Vaikunthe Yoginam Hridayeshu Tatra Tishtami Narada Yatra Gayanti Mad Bhakta. Wherever my glories are being chanted, I am there. So yeah, interestingly, there is another this thing. So in the first canto, when Krishna enters the city of Dwarka, there is a very nice description when he enters, and there it is described in one of the purports by Prabhupada that the chastisement of the ladies of the Dwarka, Krishna's queens and others, their chastisement actually is more pleasurable to Krishna than the precise Vedic mantras offered by the demigods and the sages. And here it is saying that those mantras and glorifications are more pleasurable to the Lord than the sacrifices which are given through fire, right? So there is a clear hierarchy in terms of how the Lord takes pleasure ultimately in love. So these things can be done, these things should be done for our purification. Offering of fire sacrifices, offering of mantras. But then ultimately, these need to be done with love, because in that love, Krishna even finds the chastisements pleasurable, because that is what he is looking for. So, yeah. Anyway, something in the chat. This purport has nice example of Haridas Thakur. Yeah, let's see. Yeah. When he performed, yes, fire is certainly devoid of life, but devotees and brahmanas are the living representatives of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, to feed Brahmanas and Vaishnavas is to feed the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. It may be concluded that instead of offering fire sacrifices, one should offer foodstuffs to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, for that process is more effective than fire yagya. The vivid example of this principle in action was given by Advaita Prabhu. When he performed the Shraddha ceremony for his father, he first of all called Haridas Thakur and offered him food. It is the practice that after finishing the Shraddha ceremony, one should offer food to an elevated Brahmana. But Advaita Prabhu offered food first to Haridas Thakur, who had taken his birth in a Mohammedan family. Therefore, Haridas Thakur asked Advaita Prabhu why he was doing something which might jeopardize his position in Brahmana society. Advaita Prabhu replied that he was feeding millions of first-class Brahmanas by offering the food to Haridas Thakur. He was prepared to talk with any learned Brahmana on this point and prove definitely that by offering food to a pure devotee like Haridas Thakur, he was equally as blessed as he would have been by offering food to thousands of learned Brahmanas. When performing sacrifices, one offers oblations to sacrificial fire. But when such oblations are offered to Vaishnavas, they are certainly more effective. Beautiful purport. Thank you for finding this, Prabhu. Thank you. As we are covering, you're finding very nice points and purports. Please keep doing that. It's very nice, very nourishing. Lekha Mataji, you have something?
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. This is with respect to previous purport that you commented on, Prabhu, about association. So, what does association technically mean? Because so the purport meant like, you know, we associate with someone who's involved in non-sattvic activities, like then we will also get pulled in that direction. But just relating it to like how we have to live, like we have to interact with family, friends, colleagues, and everyone has their own proclivity to certain activities. So then, what does association here mean? Does it mean like confiding in them, or how do you know that if you're associating with them or not?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, many years ago, I had heard this thing from Radhesham Prabhu. Association meant three things, and he had transformation of heart as the third one. Exchange of knowledge. Then there was some three things. I forget the first one, but there is exchange of knowledge, and then there's transformation of heart. That is association. So yeah, but we have to know, like, interact with people who are not devotionally inclined or things like that. But then one thing we can try to do is not get too influenced by that philosophy that they live with, and but at the same time we also need to have a very loving attitude towards them, separating the sin from the sinner, kind of a thing. So yeah, due to whatever reason, due to whatever samskaras they have received, due to whatever choices they made, they have certain proclivities which may be anti-devotional, but still they are spirit soul in the end. So we can try to think of them at that level, and on one hand we don't get influenced by their words, but at the same time we have a compassionate attitude towards them and humble attitude towards them, in the sense that we are looking out for their welfare, and like that we can try to give them prasadam unknowingly. Then by taking prasadam, they'll appreciate that food and they'll get agyata sukruti, and slowly that will, yeah. And the point is, by I have always thought about this, and this question always comes up: how should we behave with someone who is not devotionally inclined, who has in fact anti-devotional sentiments? How should we? One way is, of course, in some instances it is needed that we defeat them or we refute their claims, especially when Vaishnavas are being blasphemed, when Krishna is being blasphemed. But at the same time, we can, if they are not like directly blaspheming Krishna, blaspheming Vaishnavas, we can be good with them. We can be friendly with them in a genuine way. And by that, what happens is they will start appreciating us. They will say that, oh, this is a good person. This is a very nice person. And by appreciating us, actually, although we don't consider ourselves Vaishnavas, but Krishna considers us important. We are dear to Krishna. Everyone is dear to Krishna. but especially the one who is making some effort to go closer to him, that person is, dearer to Krishna. So by appreciating us because of our good behavior towards them, they are actually getting Agyata Sukriti. This is my personal interpretation of this principle.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you have one devotee, you have one non-devotee, and the devotee behaves very nicely with the non-devotee. And the non-devotee starts thinking, oh, this devotee is such a nice person. He's such a humble person. He's such a genuine well-wisher of mine. Yes, I am unable to do what he practices, but
Yeah.
he wishes well for me. And by thinking that, what is that devotee, what is that non-devotee doing indirectly? He's actually appreciating the devotee. And appreciation of a devotee, glorification of a devotee brings a very great amount of Sukriti, Agyat Sukriti.
Yeah.
That is the way I see it.
Okay.
And in fact, even in the Shad Goswami prayers, it says, Dhira Dhira Jana Priya Priyau Priya Karau. So these Goswamis, they were not just loved by the gentle, Dhira, they were also loved by the ruffians, Adhira. Dhira Dhira Jana Priya Priya Karau. Nirmat Sarau Pujitau, it says. So it's interesting that Goswamis, who are like our they are our acharyas, they are our greatest acharyas. They have given us the whole
Yeah.
theology on which we practice. They are being considered dear even by the ruffians, even by the Adhira people. So very interesting. So that means they were very nicely, they were bestowing their compassion upon them. They were behaving nicely with them. It's not that, oh yeah, you're fallen, that is not. Maharaj says in a class that as Vaishnavas, we genuinely feel for the suffering souls. So of course, it's a very high platform, but the on our level, we can think that yes, I am receiving some happiness from this process, and this person is devoid of that. So let me try to give that person this happiness in a mature way, in whatever way that person can accept in currently. But it's not that a person is suffering and we walk by and say, I got the highest process, I got the highest happiness. Too bad you didn't get it. Let me
Yeah.
just go dancing. That doesn't that's not a Vaishnava, Maharaj says. Vaishnava has genuine compassion and like that. Krishnan Prabhu, you have something, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. So there is this was very very nice discussion. There is a book by His Grace Gaurang Darshan Prabhu where he says disapproved but not disowned
Yes.
is the title of the book.
Yeah.
Where you hate the sin but not the sinner.
Yeah.
So because as even in the west there is a famous saying that every every sage has a past and every sinner has a future.
Yeah.
And obviously we don't want to call anybody a sinner too, because temporarily that soul has decided to do something incorrectly. And hopefully we'll all find the right direction and the right path to proceed. And so the ultimate quality that comes in us is our ability to forgive and look past. Obviously, we don't want to approve the act. We want to clearly disapprove the act, but we don't want to disown the person doing the act.
Yeah. Yes.
So this discussion, is a beautiful discussion, Prabhu. Yes.
Chaitanya Chan Prabhu also puts it something like do not condemn the sinner, but at the same time don't condone the sin or something like that, he says. So yeah, as you mentioned, we don't we don't approve of the activities, but at the same time we don't disown the person. So yeah, very very well put, Prabhu. Thank you.
Obviously, this is a very it's a very tall order, and this is probably the thing that we will have the most we'll have the most difficulty
Correct.
to practice, because we for all practical purposes, we end up labeling people in society, like somebody is a thief or a prisoner or something like that. We end up labeling people with some act that they have that they have done. And
Yeah.
obviously some people have the proclivity to repeat their acts,
Yeah.
and we certainly need to be careful, but we can also pray for them to see if they are for their for their happiness. We can also pray for their happiness and their
Correct.
and hope that they find God too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. There is this book called Vaishnava Compassion, written by Satswarup Goswami Maharaj. In that, he makes some really strong points. I mean, I was blown away by what he wrote. He writes that just by being part, like we say, right, we have the highest solution, the most perfect solution for the suffering of humanity, right? We say that. And para upkar, Mahaprabhu also says, janma sarthaka kari karo para upkar. You do a favor on others by giving them this highest gift, which is the panacea for all suffering. But then he writes that just by being part of an institution whose whose philosophy, that the founder has given, is the solution to all suffering, does not mean that we are compassionate people. Having a compassionate gift does not mean we as individuals are compassionate people. And he writes many strong things there, that compassion is actually it's a thing of the heart. And he writes there how Prabhupada, he says there should be a quality to our compassion. He says it's, compassion is not something superficial that you just want to shove it down the throat of others. It's a very genuine well-wishing attitude, genuine concern for others. And he writes that Prabhupada had it. He writes in that book that often Prabhupada would hear or talk about abortion, or he would hear or talk about the killing of cows, or he would hear or talk about the suffering humanity, and a tear would trickle down his eye. And the devotees present there would be astonished. Oh my God, he's such a big man, but still he is so concerned and so soft-hearted as to get affected by these things in which he is not directly connected to, or directly in charge in a way, and which others take for granted, but these things are bringing tears in his eyes. So Maharaj writes in that book that Prabhupada had that quality to his compassion. So it's a very high state again, but just by seeing Prabhupada, we can understand that that is the level of compassion. And at the same time, it is like, now this is an interesting thing. This is a paradox which I found really interesting. Maharaj talks about this in a class. So he says, as devotees are the happiest people, right? It says, our process is happy, susukham kartum avyayam, connection to Krishna gives the greatest happiness, it's the greatest liberating and joy giving, blissful and everything. But at the same time, we say a Vaishnava is paradukha dukhi, right? He suffers while seeing the suffering of others, right? And then Maharaj says that now, if you look at the world around you, if you just take out the newspaper, if you just look at the world around you, there is so much suffering. I mean, itna suffering hai that you can sit crying for your whole life. If you literally take that paradukha dukhi, you can actually sit and just keep crying because there is so much suffering in the world. But then it is kind of paradoxical that it says the Vaishnava is blissful, a Vaishnava is happy. So how do we reconcile that? So that's where Maharaj says there is a balance, right? A Vaishnava is happy, connecting to Krishna, but then he feels sad seeing others disconnected from Krishna. So it's a very paradoxical situation. But then because it is connected to Krishna, Krishna is the resolution for all contradictions. So similarly, even in a Vaishnava's life, a Vaishnava is happy being connected to Krishna, being connected to other Vaishnavas, but at the same time, he is sad that there are so many people who are not in that situation, and he tries to give that to others. So there has to be that balance. So he's trying to share that happiness with others. But anyway, it's a nice paradox. I really liked it actually. I've never thought about it like that, but Maharaj mentions in one class.
Certainly, Prabhu. And then there is another Leela of Maharaj, of Radhanath Maharaj, which, I think I've brought this up in this Sangha at least 2 times, about one of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada who fell out of the society, and he went into all kinds of different ways, and later he came, and Maharaj tracked him down, and then he was found in Goa.
Yes.
Maybe Gaurakumar Prabhu, or maybe the story.
Hayagriva Prabhu.
Hayagriva Prabhu. And was Hayagriva Prabhu one of the founders of New Vrindavan?
Yes.
And we just recently went there. So
there's a plaque also, kind of a
yes,
memory for him in New Vrindavan.
There's a plaque as well. And then I believe Maharaj gave him sannyas.
Correct.
At the end, and then he chanted before he passed away.
Yes.
Yes. And so whenever I think of compassion, I think of this, where despite all this, that it is again disapproved but not disowned.
Correct.
And obviously, it's a very, very it's a very tall order to do that.
Yeah.
And,
very tall order. Actually, one more thing, thank you for reminding me that, Prabhu. One more thing that Satswarup Maharaj writes in that book is actually compassion for others begins with compassion for oneself. Now, this is really interesting. So he writes that by being compassionate towards oneself, we will actually understand better and better how we can be compassionate towards others. So, which is really interesting. And then he also writes as a word of caution that compassion towards oneself doesn't mean we become slack in our vows, we become complacent. That is not what it is. But having a realistic picture of our own ability, having a realistic picture of our own limits, and that way trying to practice bhakti. So like he says, we are not advanced enough as sadhakas to have compassion for the whole world, but we can begin with compassion for our own self. Then we can expand that compassion towards smaller units of people. Like we can practice compassion, genuine compassion towards our family members. Then we can expand that compassion towards the devotees we associate with, to the people we preach to, and like that. So we can take it like baby steps. But then he says it begins with having a compassionate attitude towards ourselves also. Yeah, which is interesting. Again,
just to connect to that, the same thing. I got I get these small sayings through email once in a while, and this one really stuck with me, which is it says, make someone smile every day, but never forget that you are someone too.
Yes.
So that means you have to be compassionate. You have to make yourself smile too.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Prabhu. You were saying something. I interrupted you.
No, I'm just looking for that note. Yeah, what compassion is included, quality to our becoming self-compassionate means becoming more human and certainly more accepting of our own humanity. In devotional service, this is a delicate process and needs to be addressed carefully in each devotee's life. Yeah, this is a very important point. So he says, I'm not speaking about lowering our aspirations or allegiance to our initiation vows. I'm speaking about allowing ourselves to find an honest balance between who we are and what we wish to become, and to acknowledge our needs or relax rigidity. So anyway, it's I found that book very eye-opening for me personally. So yeah, this is that note from Maharaj's class. Devotees para dukha dukhi, means that we should feel for others suffering, but at the same time, Prabhupada told us to chant and be happy. So, so we have to balance between these two things. The ability to balance between our miseries, others' miseries, and the opportunity to serve is what is real wisdom. This is very nice quote, actually. This can be quoted. Yeah. Anyway, a lot can be said, but
Prabhu, sorry, can you repeat just the last one that you said, the balance quote?
which one? The
Being able to balance. I'm not able to recollect, but
this one, the ability to balance between
yeah,
our miseries, others' miseries, and the opportunity to serve is
right.
what is real wisdom.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. Anyway, moving forward, we are actually almost out of time already. I'll just skim through these verses and see if we can extract anything. Then we'll conclude. Yeah, and then Pṛthu Maharaj is begging blessings from all the devotees, all the people there, and yeah, praying for their blessings. Whoever requires Brahmana, whose only wealth is good behavior, blah blah blah. I therefore wish associates be pleased with the Brahmana class, with the cows and me. After hearing King Pṛthu speak so nicely, all the demigods, the denizens of Pitraloka and Brahmanas, saintly persons present at the meeting, congratulated him by expressing their goodwill. They all declared that the Vedic conclusion that one can conquer the heavenly planets by the action of a putra or son was fulfilled. For the most sinful Vena who had been killed by the curse of the Brahmanas was now delivered from the darkest region of hellish life by his son Mahārāja Pṛthu. Yeah, this is again a very important. I remember one devotee had mentioned to us that every spiritual practice we do, our ancestors are actually benefited by that. So every he had said in term when we dance in a kirtan, we might see it as a very simplistic activity, but then that dancing in the kirtan also gives benefit to our ancestors. So yeah, and your Hiranyakashipu's example is also given. Similarly, Hiranyakashipu, who by the dint of his sinful activities, always defied the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, entered into the darkest regions of Elisha. But by the grace of his great son Prahlad Maharaj, he was also delivered and went back home, back to Godhead. So yeah, as children, we have this opportunity to benefit our ancestors by our spiritual practice. Yeah, anyway, may you be then Pṛthu Maharaj says, oh, Brahmanas address Pṛthu Maharaj and they bless him. Yeah. Yeah, today you have opened our eyes and revealed how to cross to the other side of the ocean of darkness. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, I think this is what there is. There is a lot actually in the purports. These couple of verses have very big purports. So, but in any case, any concluding thoughts, any concluding comments, or we can end here. Uh,
Extremely brilliant class, Prabhu. Lot of things to think about, because these things, if you read from the purport, you actually don't get this perspective. Like, you have to be so well read, and and practicing and be continuously hearing for you to, like, connect all of these dots and make it more simpler and relatable. So today's class was really amazing. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. I mean, none of this is my ability for sure. And I mean it genuinely, because had it not been for Maharaj, had it not been for all these great souls who are, bringing out such wonderful literature, such wonderful insights, I would have been nowhere actually. But yeah, thank you for your kind words. It's actually a glorification of all these great personalities. Yeah. Yes. Any other thoughts, dear devotees? Any announcements, Gaur Kumar Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, I don't have any announcements, Prabhu. Just
Okay.
very tired today. Sorry.
No. Totally fine, Prabhu. Totally fine. Everybody is tired, actually. Most of us here who went to New Vrindavan are quite tired. Yeah, but I hope you all got good rest. You all had a nice day. And yeah, and I really hope and pray that consciousness of Vrindavan stays as a residue in our mind, because we again will start engaging in passionate activity, in the world. But then having that blissful memory of New Vrindavan is actually very nourishing. So yeah, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, thank you, dear devotees. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.